Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. This is our morning wrap-up show that is, well, yet to be named. We're going to be bouncing around the different games in the NBA, but I guess first and foremost, we need your help naming this thing. What should we call our morning wrap-up show where we talk about all the games from the previous night? Well, the leader in the clubhouse right now is the Skip Pass, but we need your help. Let us know what you think would be a good name for our show.
Absolutely, yeah. We're super excited to do this. The idea here is we are going to be watching all the
Yep.
games all the time, and we know you probably don't have time to do that. So we want to give you a quick run through of what happened, things that caught our eye. Obviously, some games we'll watch more intently than others. This first one, we watched them both
Yeah,
because there's
only
only
two.
two in their own unique windows. So tomorrow's episode will be a lot more of a whip around on some of the games, but some of it will be just box score insights, and we may even throw it to you. If you're an Indiana Pacers fan, we may say, "Hey, what happened in that game that caused X, Y, and Z?" And you can drop it in the comments.
Mhm.
But we're gonna share our insights and thoughts on what we saw around the league and those kind of things, and get into it and have a lot of fun doing this on a near daily basis. We'll probably take the weekends
Yep.
off unless there was something major that happened. But Monday through Friday, we'll be here wrapping everything up for you.
That's right. That's right. So Keith, should we dive into it, I guess? Into these
Yeah, let's
it,
go, man. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go.
all right.
So I've got my energy's on like a million right
I
now.
slept for like a handful of hours after the Lakers game was late last night and everything. And I wake up and I say to Keith, I'm gonna need about 30 minutes or so to kind of get moving here. And I get back, I'm fired up. Let's go. Let's go. What has
I
got you
am
so
ready.
what has got you so fired up? Is it just NBA basketball being back? Is it are you
Yeah.
running on Monster like I am? Hashtag not a sponsor, not a sponsor. What is it, Keith?
I do have a little iced coffee chugging through my veins this
Okay,
morning, but
that's fair.
I woke up in such a good mood because there's games to break down.
For
There's
sure.
more games coming tonight. This is my happy place. I am thrilled. Today, as an aside, is my wife and I's 16th wedding
Oh,
anniversary.
happy
So
anniversary. That's
yeah,
awesome.
happy anniversary with a basketball game thrown in on top. But since it's on a Wednesday, we have decided to delay. We're going to do something fun this weekend instead, just because it's hard with
Yeah.
work and all that for both of us. But yeah, man, I'm in a really good mood today. I woke up happy and ready to go, and I'm psyched. So
All
it's
right.
I'm ready to go. What do you want to start with?
Let's
You
start
want to start with your
let's go
guys or the
chronologically.
Nets
Let's start
Bucks?
with
All right,
let's
perfect.
go Nets Bucks. Well, we'll start
All
there.
right, so yeah, so the Bucks looks like more of a blowout if you
Than it
just look at the
was.
box score and final score than it really was.
Yep.
But Bucks 127, Nets 104. Bucks pulled away late in this one, but they controlled the entirety of
Hmm.
this game. They were really kind of running. The Nets made a run as every team does in the NBA, and they have a lot of talent and closed it in a little bit. But Milwaukee looked pretty good, and I think one of my big takeaways is they looked pretty good despite Drew Holiday leaving the game early with heel soreness. MRI after or during the game, Mike Budenholzer said after that everything's clean and it
Hmm.
looks like he's going to be okay. So good news there. But yeah, I thought Milwaukee looked excellent.
Yeah, and this was I'll tell you what. Heading into tonight, like if I didn't bet on these games, if I had bet on these games though, I would have bet the Nets to win this. Why?
Sure.
Because it's ring night. Typically what happens on ring night for the championship team is they're so distracted by the bling that they wind up, and of course all the emotions and all that kind of stuff that gets
Yep.
wrapped
Yeah,
up
they're
into it.
wiping tears out of their eyes for
Exactly.
most of the first quarter still.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so then you typically have kind of a flat performance. The Bucks were like, nope, not doing that. In fact, remember just how good we are. They were fantastic. They looked like they were in midseason form. Their offense was very,
Yep.
very crisp. Defensively, they were where they needed to be. They came out as though they've been hearing all offseason that the Nets are the favorite, and they wanted to prove something. I went, oh my gosh, we're getting a statement game on opening night. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way this went down. And you look at the stats and you go, man, this wasn't just like an off shooting night from the Nets. They shot 53% from three. And yet here we are. The Bucks still won. So that's impressive. And I will say the Nets, I think they can play better.
Sure.
57% from the free throw line. I didn't think they were perfect, but I think this was a nice reminder from the Bucks that they are really, really good, and they didn't win a championship just by accident.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Giannis was
Oh my
dominant at
gosh.
points in this game. And in the things that we saw that caused the Nets problems in the playoffs were still there
Mhm.
for the Bucks. They don't have a good answer for Giannis. Nobody has a great answer for him, but they really don't have anybody that they can throw at him and feel pretty good. And they tried a lot of different players on him and just didn't really go anywhere. 32, 14, and 7 for Giannis. Also added a steal and a couple
Yep.
blocks. 7 for 9 at the free throw line. That's a little scary for everybody in the league, is, if he's going to really truly be knocking him down. Also, he's now in a fully new free throw shooting routine. I don't know if you picked that up watching, but now it's he gets the ball, takes a breath, one dribble, and he shoots. There's no more of this counting it
That's right.
down to 10 and
I
all
kind of
that
missed
stuff.
that.
He's getting them up.
That was fun.
Yeah, yeah. I was hoping if he still had the old routine that Bucks fans would have done it kind of like
Right. Yeah.
facetiously of like
Like do it
like
really
maybe like a
slow.
really drawn out. Yeah, exactly. One, two. Yeah, I thought that would have been fun. But couple other observations from the Buck
Yeah.
side of this. So Holiday left
Mhm.
early. Dante DiVincenzo's still out. Grayson Allen got the start. Did not shoot it overly great. He was 3 of 10 from the field. All of those shots were 3-point attempts. But when Holiday went out, he kind of slid over and took over the point guard duties for them. And he did have 6 assists, and I thought he competed well defensively.
He
He
did.
drew James Harden several times, and hung in there and did all right. So that's something to keep an eye on there. Pat Connaughton was unreal off the bench with 20
Yeah.
points, played really, really well. And Jordan Nwora, who
Woo.
had a monster
Yeah.
preseason, 15 points off the bench, and that dude comes in ready to fire. Like, there's no wait from him. I mean, he's going to launch shots. So, and then, Chris Middleton was good. Brook Lopez did his thing defensively, had 3 blocks in this one. And just overall, Bucks 9 blocks as a team. They were just kind of all over the place defensively, because when you think about it, it doesn't sound like much, but 104 points. Teams don't hold teams much
Right.
under 100 all that
Especially the
often
Nets.
anymore. So the net holding the Nets to 104 points is pretty good stuff from
Absolutely.
Milwaukee.
It felt like everybody was making big plays, right? I mean,
Yep.
you turn around and there's Brook Lopez blocking a shot at the rim. There's Grayson Allen stripping James Harden, right? It was one play after another, where all of the other guys were doing things. And you're right, Jordan Nwora, like we've talked all about how amazing it is that the Nets were able to get Cam Thomas and what a difference maker he can be just talent wise, even if they don't need his skill set. And then Jordan Nwora is like, yeah, I can do stuff too. And came in and made a major
Yeah.
impact. That was great to see as well. Look, I mean, they lost Drew Holiday and didn't miss a beat. Not many teams in the
Yeah.
NBA can do that.
And Holiday was really good before he went out. He was playing great defense, that's really what they need him to do. But he also had 12 points. A couple other things that jumped out, just team wise with the Bucks, because they had 13 offensive rebounds and they only turned it over
That's
7
incredible.
times. They took 21 more shots than the Nets did in this game. They took 105 shots, which it's always been the kind of a thing. Like if you can get up over 100 shots, that's means you're crashing the boards, you're not turning it over, and you're probably pushing pace a little bit. So when you outshoot your team in terms of attempts by 21 shots, it's hard to make up that difference. So that was a big part of
Absolutely. And that's what I was going to get to next was the 7 turnovers. 7 turnovers on opening night. That tells you that look, one of the things you're going to see in early in the season is you're going to be able to tell the teams that mostly brought back all of their players from last season compared to the teams who did not and had a lot of major changes. The teams who brought back most of their players, they're going to have an advantage in the early going of the season because they're already going to have some of that chemistry kind of built in. And that was certainly the case with the Milwaukee Bucks. But still, again, that's not to say, oh, it's just because they brought back so many players. The Nets brought back a lot of their guys too. The Bucks were just flat out better tonight. And I think, Keith, that means the Nets burn it to the ground. Just rebuild, start over.
100%.
It's done.
Yep.
It's over. And yeah, the Nets obviously clearly frauds. They've been exposed. They're not winning a championship this year.
Yeah, that's why James Harden didn't sign an extension. This is a good point to mix in. We are still going to do the front office show, regular show version where we talk news and transaction stuff. We're not going to do a lot of that on this feed because this feed we want to focus on game. Well, not feed, it's still the same feed, but this version of the show, subset of the show, whatever we want to call it. But to be named, show to be named later. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. But all right, so we're flipping over to the
Yeah.
Brooklyn side. KD was really good, at least offensively. Defensively, he didn't look overly engaged. Like, none of the Nets
No, they
looked
didn't.
like they cared all that much defensively. They just didn't have a good answer for a lot of the stuff Milwaukee was doing. Thought it was an interesting lineup choice by Steve Nash. He went big with Nick Claxton and Blake
Yeah.
Griffin. KD played almost solely at the 3, very little at the 4 in this game, and I thought that him as a 4, he's unguardable as a 3, but he's really unguardable as a 4 for any other big, and that kind of allowed Giannis to kind of float around a little bit because he wasn't overly concerned with guarding Blake Griffin. Claxton was okay. He had 12 points and 7 rebounds, finished off a couple lobs from James Harden, but it's just, I don't know. That was an odd lineup choice, I thought, from Steve Nash. I didn't love that one because the other thing it left him with, they have a good answer to guard Chris Middleton. And then Bruce Brown only played under 4 minutes and got them all in garbage time at the end of the game when the Nets kind of waved the white flag. So I didn't really get that and understand where they were going with the lineup decisions from that end. Harden shot it horribly.
6 for 16.
He, 28 and 8. So kind of a James Harden line if he had shot it a little bit better there. Joe Harris a little off. I think one of the things that the Nets do the Bucks do really well is they run Harris off the 3-point line, but then they have size to contest him. And what ends up happening is his shot he doesn't want to take is that mid-ranger. It's not comfortable for him, and that's what he was missing in this game was as he can run off the arc, he was missing those mid-rangers because you've got Lopez and Giannis back there kind of cluttering things up in the paint. Patty Mills was the real standout guy, I thought, for them. Yeah, 7 for 7 from 3, off the bench, 21 points in 29 minutes. He looks really good. He's going to be a huge part of what
somehow, I don't know if they hypnotized him or what they did, but somehow they got it so that Patty Mills, when he looked down, he saw not a Nets jersey, but an Australia jersey, because that's what you got
right?
out of Patty Mills. You got a Team Australia version of Patty Mills, and that was an impressive performance from him. As far as the lineup goes, I think that the thought was just build a wall at the rim to deal with Giannis, and that you want as much length as you can get, and it just didn't work out for the Nets. But I do expect that they'll
that's just
back.
Not those guys. It's as odd as it sounds, and we're going to get into him in a minute here in the next game. You're better off with DeAndre Jordan doing that than maybe you would be with some of these other guys that they played. LaMarcus Aldridge didn't look very good. Paul Millsap didn't look very good in brief minutes. James Johnson got out there. I think that was just searching for stuff. I'm going to throw him on Giannis for a little bit, and it didn't work out. Now, it's opening night. Nothing here is worth going crazy over. It's clear the Nets against one of the other best teams in the league, one of the title favorites. So when we see the Nets next, I don't know who they have next, but when we see them play in their next game, they're probably going to roll over whoever it is, and we'll be like, oh,
next up is the 76ers.
Okay, well, maybe they won't. It's you have some of the same problems there with Joel Embiid. They're going to struggle against size. If you have size that can score and do some stuff, especially if it's a guy who's kind of got good size and can handle the ball a little bit, you're going to struggle, or the Nets are going to struggle to stop those guys. They just don't have a good defender to put on players.
I'm expecting, I know we're in the COVID era and all that, but before the Nets and the 76ers play each other, I want Sean Marks and Daryl Morey to meet each other, maybe shake hands, maybe give a hug, just kind of give each other that knowing nod of, I understand what you're going through right now with Kyrie and Ben Simmons, and just say, oh, it's okay, buddy. We'll get through this. I feel like we need to connect these two guys somehow.
That'd be pretty funny. You know what would happen, though? It would instantly, someone would snag a picture and be like, they're talking to Simmons for Kyrie trade. They have to be, even though they're more commiserating. All right, you want to move on? I know you probably don't.
No, I do. I do want to move on to this one. And I do want to mention to our viewers, too, the reason why we're going as in-depth as we are today into these games is because there's only 2 of them. In the future, it'll be much more rapid fire.
Yeah, it'll probably be one or two observations at most from the
Right.
games. Yeah, so Warriors Lakers 121, Warriors 114 Lakers. This one was it was a kind of a weird game. It felt like for large portions the Lakers had
Hmm.
control. To me, felt like they were really. There was a point in the third quarter where it was teetering on this might end up being a
Yep.
blowout, and they might run away with this. And then the Warriors. It's funny because what I'm seeing getting play kind of online this morning is their offense, but I thought the Warriors' defense is what changed the game. I thought they picked it way, way up defensively. And I thought Steve Kerr, after trying some different stuff, finally found a group that could fit defensively. And then thought that was what really amped them up because LeBron and AD
They
just
were, yeah, they
murdered
were
them
incredible.
throughout the first three quarters of this game. It was, really nothing at all that they could do with either one of those guys. So, but yeah, Steph Curry triple double despite shooting
Yeah,
terribly. Jordan Poole, that as we know, Jordan, we can just officially name him Jordan Poole, Keith Sky,
Keith Scott.
because I'm in love with that kid. I just love his confidence. Like he didn't shoot it great, but he's not. Like if he thinks he's open, it's going up.
Yep.
Which was a lot of fun. The big night from Nemanja Bjelica. That's probably maybe the biggest surprise of all. I don't know that anybody
No, definitely
expected
not.
him to factor in the way he did, and he was great. Yeah, double double off the bench with 4 assists. Played a lot as kind of their five. I get like five. I'm doing
Right.
air
Yeah.
quotes now because I don't know what you would really call that, but yeah, I thought overall the Warriors looked kind of Warriorsy. Like they were moving the ball really well. They're 30 assists on 41 baskets. That's pretty good stuff on opening
Yeah,
night.
and you know what? That's exactly how you counter this Lakers team, right? A bunch of new faces that have just been thrown together that are missing four rotation players already due to injury. You make
Yep.
them rotate. You make them make decisions on the defensive end until they make mistakes, and that's exactly what will happen. What happened most of the night was the Warriors would get the Lakers to make one or two and then three choices on the defensive end, and somewhere along that line they
Yep.
would mess up, and then the Warriors would get a three or a look at the basket or whatever. It was the end of the third. The end of the third quarter is where the Lakers lost the
Yeah.
game. The end of the
Yep.
third quarter, the final 2 minutes, the Lakers were up, I believe it was 9 or 10. And then the Warriors were able to cut that to two heading into the third. And frankly, I mean, maybe this is me being pessimistic. I went, that's the game. That was it right there. The deciding
Yeah.
moment was the end of the third quarter. Whereas if they had gone in with a double digit lead, like they could have, it was that was to me the big turning point. But the Warriors were great. Jordan Poole, again, tremendous. I love that he re-injured his ankle in the middle of the game and then said, nope, not going out, and continued to fight through it and continued to play great.
Yep.
So that was fantastic to see. You know, the Warriors it was almost a little bit Bucks-ish in that they got contributions from just about everybody. I mean, you've got
Yeah.
15 points from Damian Lee, 12 from Andre Iguodala, who shot 40% from three. Like, where did that come from? 15 from
Yeah.
Bjelica, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins chipped in with 12. You had a lot of other guys doing a lot of things, and then you had the standard Draymond Green stat line: 6 points, 8 boards, 6 assists. Did have 5 turnovers on the night for him. High turnover game for the Warriors. But one of the things that I think just overall, if you take a step back and look at this entire game, you had in the preseason, these were the two fastest teams in the NBA in terms of pace. And there were
Mhm.
moments tonight or last night where it felt like that, right? Like you just went, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
how are they going to keep up this pace all game long? I got tired watching it. It was nuts.
There, there was even times too where I was saying to myself, "I'm like both ways." There was a stretch. It's funny. So my wife will
Mhm.
watch, but she's then like kind of throws in passing observations, and I'm sure you get the same kind of
Absolutely.
thing where sometimes it's like, "Wow, I never thought about that because that's not how I think about it." And she's like, "This game is bad." Because it was like a stretch of like 2 minutes where it's just guys running up
Yeah.
and down. They were bricking shots, throwing it out of bounds, but it was all happening so fast that it was like, yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it. It was kind of like watching a youth game where it's just, sprint one
Yeah.
way, sprint the other, throw up a brick, throw a wild, crazy pass and those kind of things. So, but you're absolutely right. The Warriors get a lot of different guys chipped in here, and they're same boat as the Lakers. A lot of key guys out. Klay Thompson's not back. James Wiseman's
Yeah.
not playing for them yet. They had Jonathan Kuminga, who we'll see what he is. Interesting. I do wonder. You don't want to read too much into just opening night, but like Otto Porter Jr. He's gonna have to be a 4 and solely a
Yes.
4, because when he was out on LeBron on the perimeter, that was
Yeah.
bad. He couldn't move. Did a little bit better against AD, especially once he flopped a couple times in his early stint on AD, and it was like the refs were like, "No, no, you're not getting that call." And then when he held his ground, he did a little bit better. And I continue to maintain with AD, he doesn't want guys getting up in underneath him. That's what he doesn't like. That's how you make him uncomfortable. That's why sometimes smaller guys who just he can't just power through have a little bit better success defending him, just because they bother him. He turns into a turnaround jump shooter then, and they're right into his body, and he's uncomfortable. So, I thought they did better with that as the night went along, because early on they had no answer for him at all. I mean, and LeBron came out, I kind of almost uncharacteristically lately for the way he plays. He usually kind of more feels it out, but he came out right away, making shots. So,
well, the Lakers have talked about that. They've talked about like, we know this, we haven't figured it out yet. We know we're missing the guys we're going to rely on, so we're going to have to ask LeBron and Anthony Davis to do a bit more early on. So I think that's definitely in his head. But you mentioned Otto Porter Jr. flopping, and I want to jump into something real quick here. NBA referees, do not do this. Please continue to implement those new rules that we saw that we talked about over the summer. There was a play in the third where Steph went up for a 3, kicked his legs out, and got the foul. No, referees, no, do not start with that stuff. That was the fear, right? Was that the NBA was going to implement these new rules. They were going to take this stuff out of the game, and it was great. It was going to look more like the play we saw in the Olympics, where guys aren't getting those kind of weird calls where their shooting motion is all out of whack just in order to get contact. And then we saw Steph get that call last night. And again, it didn't make a difference in the outcome of the game. So I'm not saying this as in terms of, oh, this is why the Lakers lost. No, that is not the case. Just from a viewing perspective, please take that out of the game. Continue to make that call. The fear was that we would get maybe a couple weeks into the season, and then the NBA would kind of go back to the way it was, which we've seen in the past with, we're going to really crack down on flopping and things like that. And then it didn't really happen. It's my pet peeve, that kind of stuff. It needs to be taken out of the game.
Yeah. I will say you saw the new anti-flopping foul drawing rules come into play in the first game a couple times. James Harden, of course, he's one of the people this was put in for. He tried a couple of those rip-throughs where it was like, nope, you're not getting it. And then Chris Middleton actually had one where he pump faked, full on leaned into the defender who was doing everything he could. He left his feet, but the defender did everything he could to avoid him. Middleton leaned in, did miss the shot, and there was no call. They didn't call the offensive foul because it didn't really impact the defender at all, but he got no call, and you saw Middleton kind of turn around, and you could see the ref was already off-headed the other way with it. And then there was a play in this one, I think it was Carmelo pulled the same kind of thing. He pumped fake, got a guy in the air, kind of started to throw up a shot, and just it was one of those where the refs are holding their ground on that a little bit more. So it's going to take time, and I just want to see balance with it, because I don't like watching free throw shooting contests. That's not why I watch basketball. And on the flip side, I don't want it to turn into guys are getting run over and there's never a call. So and they'll figure that out with that. Back to a couple passing observations that I had. Again, this is a complete overreaction to a night one thing, but a little less Russell Westbrook, a little more anybody else. Maybe that game goes differently. It was just not his night. He didn't play well. Didn't look comfortable. Frank Vogel said, I saw a post game, he's the guy who has to adjust the most here, and it's going to take time for him. They've got to do something, and my guess is they're going to continue to work on this, because the main guys didn't play together very much in the preseason. So you got to build this through. These early games are kind of still their extended preseason. When he's off the ball, you got to build the actions that make him move. Because if he's just going to sit in the corner, that gives Steph in a game like this somebody to guard, and he doesn't. And then Steph was doing the things where he starts coming in, he starts messing around with LeBron on
Yeah.
drives and AD on drives because I don't care, kick it out to him. It doesn't matter. There, AD only went 2 for 7 from the free throw line. That's not going to
Yeah.
happen again, or at least not very often. So they make a couple more free throws. It's maybe a different game there. And then I thought, and I understand why they couldn't play him more because they just had gotten him back the day prior. But I thought Avery
Hmm.
Bradley mixed in somehow. I thought Bazemore was
Yeah.
pretty good. Then I thought he got almost overly physical. And there's like, it started to be like, now you've taken it too far. And they started to call him on some stuff. And now that Bradley came in and did a fairly nice job defensively, and then he made a couple jump shots. And I think him being a guy who doesn't need the ball, he's very good off ball. He'll be a nice fit with the way LeBron and Russ pass. He'll get some baskets just from being an active
Well,
cutter.
and Bazemore, I thought was solid on the night just in terms of the activity, because the Lakers have pretty much turned to him and said, "You're it, right? Everybody else is on the
Yeah.
sideline, right? Everybody else is hurt. You're all we've
Yep.
got in terms of perimeter defenders.
Yep.
You're the last man standing." And that's why Avery Bradley got into this game. Avery Bradley has not practiced yet with the Lakers. He just showed up
Yeah.
yesterday, and Frank Vogel looked down his bench and went, "You're
Yep.
in." There's
Let's
nobody.
go.
There's
Yeah.
nobody else. Because if you saw, there was a lineup that he put out there. The second it stepped on the floor, I went, "Oh, they're going to get lit up." It was Westbrook, Rondo. Who else was out there for him? Westbrook,
Oh, it was one of the
Rondo.
bigs,
Yeah,
I
you
think.
well, it was AD, Westbrook, Rondo,
Yeah.
Malik Monk, and Carmelo Anthony. That was the lineup, and I went,
Yes. Yeah,
"Oh
that's
my
right.
gosh!" Like Anthony Davis is going to lose his mind because he has nobody that can defend in that group. And sure enough,
Yeah.
the Warriors scored every single time down for like 5 possessions in a row against them, and a lot of Lakers fans were upset with Frank Vogel, and I went, what else is he going to do? There's nobody. They
Yeah.
don't have all the guys they would rely on to
Yep.
play defense on the perimeter, and that's why at the end of the game he's in crunch time. And Avery Bradley, Frank Vogel just went, "Hey, AB, do you remember what we did a year and a half ago? Okay, cool. You're
Yep.
in." Like
Yeah.
that's where they're at. But I do think they're going to need to use him a bit more moving forward, because you can't have lineups
Yeah.
with 4 poor defenders and then Anthony Davis and expect AD to make up for all of that. Defense
It
doesn't work that way. So I think Avery Bradley is going to have to play a bigger role for them, particularly while they wait for guys like Taylor Horton Tucker, Trevor
mhm.
Ariza to get healthy, Kendrick Nunn as well.
Yeah. I think too, I think Frank Vogel learned a pretty good lesson for the future. No more Rondo Westbrook lineups together ever. Like
That'll
that's
be
not
Kendrick Nunn in the future. What we've seen
Yep,
from
exactly.
preseason.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those will go to Kendrick Nunn, or those minutes will go to Avery
Yep.
Bradley alongside Westbrook. Bradley's a good enough shooter now. You can pull that off. Maybe you up Malik Monk's minutes, maybe into the mid
Hmm.
20s right now, while Ellington and Horton Tucker out. You just can't do it. You can't play those two guys together. That was probably the single biggest thing between, and I fully understand why they started DeAndre
Yeah.
Jordan, why and they didn't go too crazy. Him and Dwight basically split the half the game that AD wasn't at the
Yep.
5. So am I too freaked out about starting one of them? But there was, I want to say, and maybe I'm wrong, but I want to say there was a period where it was Rondo, Westbrook, and one of the bigs. I don't care who the other two guys are out there. It would need to be prime Steph and prime Ray
Yeah.
Allen for you to find anything resembling floor balance, because just that's it. That's 3 guys. You're just, please shoot
Right.
jumpers. Please do anything. Um, DeAndre Jordan, I thought, looked much better than Dwight Howard looked, but it's just, I mean, I don't know. I thought Dwight was he was in a tougher spot because he had to go against Bielitsa. He was out on the perimeter
Yeah.
quite a bit, where Jordan was able to sag off Draymond Green and kind of played more of those minutes. But I'm not nervous about where the Lakers are going right now, just from the standpoint of, I think we're going to see them get rid of some of this stuff we saw on opening night. As guys get
Yeah.
back, as Vogel figures out his rotations better, some of that stuff will go away, like the Rondo Westbrook minutes together. I'd be surprised if we see much of that at all moving forward. And then that will rebalance everything, because clearly you you can't expect LeBron and AD to play minutes that are high
Yeah.
30s and combine for 67 points a night. It's just not going to happen. It's too much, and they'll be dead by the time you get to the playoffs, and it'll be a short playoff stay if that's how it has to be. And I don't think it's going to be. Russ will be better. He'll start to figure stuff out. I'm not. I've seen a lot of people. We told you.
Yeah, there's a lot of that out there.
It's way too early to start pulling that card. Yes, some of these problems are going to be things we know all year long are going to be issues, but you can't play that card today.
Not after one regular season game.
Yeah.
There's a few things here. I actually like Dwight better than DeAndre Jordan, and just because he does the big man things. I saw Jordan Poole get rebounds over DeAndre Jordan. That can't happen.
DeAndre Jordan can't move.
And that's it.
It's got to come right.
And I thought he had like. I like sometimes physically you have a moment of clarity when you get older. Every once in a while, trust me, if you guys aren't there yet, you'll get there. You'll have days where suddenly you feel good and you feel like you can move around and everything is working well.
Like me this morning.
Yeah, there you go. Keith woke up firing on all cylinders, right? And then the rest of the time you feel like you go, oh yeah, I'm older now. And DeAndre Jordan had one of those nights against the Kings in the final preseason game where he was much more active, looked a bit more bouncy. And then tonight we saw back to DeAndre looking like he didn't have any lift to him. And so that was a concern there. Dwight against Bjelica, yes, that was a problem. But overall, Dwight is much more mobile than DeAndre Jordan is. But the Lakers really like turning to Dwight as soon as Anthony Davis comes out of the game at the end of the first quarter and at the end of the third. So I think we do see that continue and DeAndre Jordan stay in the starting lineup. I think the big thing for the Lakers is we know that right now, with the team as it is, with guys sidelined and with them still trying to learn their defensive concepts and things like that, the margin for error just isn't there. Like LeBron and AD go for 30, but then you had 48% shooting from the free throw line. You lost the offensive rebounding battle to a smaller team. We can talk about that in a minute. But and then Russell Westbrook having a bad game. You could absorb probably 2 of those things and still win. You couldn't absorb 3 of those things and win because that margin for error just isn't there with a team that's kind of piecing it together and figuring it out.
Yep. Kind of to my last thing, and this goes back to a point you made on the pace stuff. How fast played this game was. The Lakers took 95 shots. The Warriors took 93 shots, and they both had 17 turnovers. So
it's crazy.
I mean, they would have a couple less turnover, and there were some turnovers where it was I was starting to get worried for the people in the seats because they were, firing fastballs, 8 rows deep and those kind of. It's just you're fired up to play on opening night. It's going to be a little bit sloppy. Both of these teams mixing in some new guys that haven't played there before. So yeah, but that just gives you a sense of that. I do wonder for the Lakers, is that trying to lean too much into Russ's game? Because I just can't imagine LeBron and AD can keep that kind of pace up all year. Because the one thing I always say, people are always like, LeBron can play fast. LeBron can play fast, but what we get stuck in our mind is LeBron grabs the rebound, puts his head down. He's like a freight train going coast to coast. Nobody gets in front of him, but that's like twice a game. And that goes all the way back to when he was first Cavs stint before he even went to Miami. He's never been a guy who really pushes the ball and plays at this super high pace. What he's always done is he saves that for, all right, it's game 7. It's the fourth quarter.
Now I'm going.
He's got it when nobody else still has it. Now I'm going to run it down your throat. So, again, as a reminder, as Trevor said before, we went in deep on these 2 games. It will not be like this tomorrow. Tomorrow it'll be a lot quicker with that because there's only 2 games. But there's going to be nights like this. We know there's still kind of the TNT nights where there's only 2 or 3 games. Those are ones we can spend a little bit more time on. And we both clearly watched the entirety of these 2 games too. So we had a lot more thoughts to share.
But hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's only so many hours in the day, and you can only cram so much stuff in. But give us your thoughts on the show name. Give us your thoughts on what you think about this kind of wrap-up show. I think you'll get a more real sense for what we're going for tomorrow morning as we wrap up a much busier night around the NBA. But this was a lot of fun. I liked doing this, and don't get me wrong, I love what Front Office Show is. It's heart and soul of transactions and roster stuff, but I like actually getting in and breaking down and talking about the games too, because believe it or not, we're not just robots. We do watch basketball too.
We don't just look at stat sheets.
Come on. Yeah, I don't personally just live inside a spreadsheet with salary numbers on it, despite what some may think. I do watch the games.
Amazing. I know. I never would have guessed it, right? But yeah, this was a lot of fun. Like he said, we won't go as in depth in the future, but for when we have busier nights and things like that. But again, let us know. Give us your thoughts in the comments down below. We'll be coming at you later today. There was some news that came out that we need to get into, so we'll be coming at you with a standard front office show a little bit later today. But give us your thoughts in the comments section on our wrap up show here, and let me leave you with this. Carmelo Anthony pump faked a free throw. I think that was the moment of the night. All right, everybody. Till next time, stay safe and see you.